Happy Monday, book club hosted by Heather Skinner. Welcome back to our final interview installment with author Helen Holder, where we'll get to talk about David's Pretzels and Sleepover with Grandma, which I'm so excited to read these this month with my daughter Gemma. So it'll be really exciting to hear more about them. Let's start with David's Pretzels. Do you want to start off with another brief bio on this one?
Well, my son David, when he was young, used to bite the pretzels into letters. So that was sort of the inspiration for this book. So it's pretty strictly just a simple alphabet rhyme, but all the letters are pretzels, the naughty kind bitten into letters. And I actually went through and did all of them. So they are the letters that you can make out of the pretzels.
That is
So
so
that was
cool.
the inspiration for that. But then again, it's a lot on every page. There's a word you might not know. So
I love that this is coming right from something you know that you guys experienced in your household. I noticed too on one of the reviews that it also inspires other children to do the same thing. Like they asked for, there was one review where the parent said, my kids are now asking after this book to have some pretzels so they can turn them into letters. And I think that's so exciting that you can combine that. You can have that healthier snack, and then they're also making the letters. I think that is so cool.
well, my niece, who's an aide in the school, took this book to school for the teacher to read to the kids, and the teacher had just happened to choose pretzels for their snack that day, so it really fit in.
Oh, that's perfect that it worked out that way. That's so cool. And I did
And
actually want to. Oh,
it's big on introducing what a glossary is and how you use it, and I encourage everybody to read your dictionary and look for interesting words, unusual words, words that sound delightful, and words that tickle your fancy.
I love that. I love that throughout your books that you carry on that theme of learning new vocabulary. I think that's so important, and something that's so hard to find, especially throughout a series of different kinds of books. So I think that's really cool. I was actually curious if there's other themes that you carry throughout your books too, because I noticed too, I wanted to talk about these two together because they both have food on their covers. So that's like a different theme. I was curious if these were all favorite snacks in your house, because Sleepover with Grandma has popcorn and cookies, and you got the pretzels.
Right, yes. I guess so. Yeah, have a little food with your reading. Let's have a snack while we read.
Exactly, right? As long as you're not touching the food with the snack, but or touching the book
Right.
with the snack, um but is that like, did you intentionally put like food themes and animal themes and stuff throughout your books that carry over into everything, or any other themes that?
No, it's pretty much just what happens.
I love it. And then when there's connections, there's connections. It's just how it fell, right?
Right.
I love the fact that you illustrated this, by the way, and you made it look like a pretzel bag. And I was looking at it a little closer. So
Yeah, right.
yeah, you've got the nutrition facts
There's
on the
the
back.
ingredients and the nutrition.
Yes, and the front I think is so clever too, where you said like best by date, like never expires. I forget how it's exactly
Right.
worded out there, but I thought that was just so clever, like all the little details. And because you illustrated it, did you think of that while you were writing it, or was that kind of after when you were playing with it?
Yeah, no, when I first thought about it, um, I um, I thought about having the bag open with pretzels coming out. Well, I mean, that would involve a really fancy cover. And I was like, no, I can't do that. But it was actually this way. And of course, it was 8.5 by 11 paper. So that was part of my problems when I was trying to self-publish it, was it didn't fit in any of the formats that they had. And I had no clue. I was trying to figure out on the computer, how do you change these pictures to this shape? So there was a lot of things that were going on. So the pictures that I made were actually uh, with colored pencils. So Chelsea has revamped the pictures, made them all brighter and everything too. So she took my pictures and made them better. That's
I think they are wonderful. Like, you
yeah.
definitely need to give yourself more credit with your illustrating because this is gorgeous. Oh, I love
Oh,
it.
but
Do
on
you
every page,
illustrating?
there's a word that you might not know. So that will be in the glossary. So I did have one family where the mother had read it to the little brothers. And then the dad was reading it and was saying, oh boy, I don't even know some of these words. And the junior high son was like, oh, I bet I know all of them. So he started out with the very first one, which is A is an antimacassar. A is for an antimacassar. And he's like, oh, I guess I don't know.
And the only reason I now know what it is because I watched on Fox Point Publishing on your page for this book
Oh,
where
yeah,
Hall reads what it is. I had no idea before either. I think that's so
right.
fun. When you're writing, do you think about the adult audience at the same time, like and think about how they might enjoy this stuff too? Because it is really fun for the adults. I feel like for me, like reading this kind of stuff with kids, not only the funny parts of it, but also the learning parts. I enjoy both. So do you have that in mind when you're writing?
Uh, when mostly I think of stories being read aloud to kids. So because I loved to read aloud. I mean, that was my favorite part of the day in first grade was just reading stories to the kids. And so I think of it that, but so then you have to think about, okay, if you're the person that's going to have to read this story today, tomorrow, twice on Thursday, when if some kid really likes the story, then it can't be too awful for the adult to have to read it. So that is some consideration, but otherwise, not a lot.
I think that's like the perfect amount of consideration for the reader. I like that. Oh my gosh. Do you plan on illustrating again? Because I really think that is gorgeous. No?
Well, it was, and this one's not too bad because each picture, and then I decided to have the Jabiru in each picture. So they're they can each one can be standalone. So I think my problem is for something like a whole story. Well, if you draw grandma on this page, on the last page, she's got to look somewhat the same. She can't be changing her size or her shape or whatever throughout the story. So that's a little more daunting for me. So I probably won't do a whole, besides, I have such good illustrators that I would much prefer they do it.
And it sounds like you have a really good rapport with each one that you come across too, which is great. Like to have that back and forth
Yeah,
thing work out so well. And all of your books are gorgeous. So I love that. I love you get to have that different experience with each.
yeah. So what Kayla has done most of them, and she's just terrific.
Yeah, that's great. And then you had been talking about your glossary, which I love. Were there any words that you put into that you didn't know going into it? Is this like did you sit down because you said you love looking through dictionaries. Is this something that you use to make your words in the book, like to pick words?
Well, pretty much I was already familiar with all of the words, so it was Jabiru I had to figure out because, well, first of all, you had to have a J word. So Jabiru was one I found, and then you have to find out what is a Jabiru. But most of the others I was familiar with. Well, xanthic is another one. So the X and the J, those are hard words to come up with. So
So that took a little extra.
that took a little extra figuring out. And then once you pick like xanthic, it's like, how can I use that how can I show xanthic?
So, and the fact that this is like an alphabet book too, which I feel like that's a very saturated picture book market. So what was your thought? Were you worried about that going into it when you wrote it? Like, were you thinking, oh, I have to make this super unique so that it will fit into the market or anything like that?
Uh, well, I kind of wrote the book, and then when I started looking at publishers, all of them pretty much say, we don't want any alphabet books. So it's like, well, okay. But so I had written this one, and we had a writers group at the school where I was teaching. And so somebody gave me an article about alphabet books and how important they are. for the conversation parts, that when you're looking at an alphabet book, you're not just reading all these things, but you're looking at the shapes of the letters and the capital and the small letter and the conversations about what's in the picture and what else can you think of that starts with this, that there's a whole lot of things that go on with just a simple alphabet book and things you don't necessarily, I don't think a lot of parents even think about, but how does a book work? That you have the book and you turn the pages this way and you turn the pages in order and you read from left to right and you start at the top and go to the bottom, and all those little black marks mean something. So there's a lot of things. An alphabet book seems like it's pretty simple, but there's a lot of things going on when you're reading alphabet books, or it can go on too if you really want to have your kid learn a lot of things.
It's true. That actually makes me think of a question I have for you for sleepover with grandma. So if you want to pull that one up, I found it interesting. I want to say in this one, when on the Fox Point website again, where that short little video clip, I think it's so cool that Kirsten Hall does this on there, where you can kind of see a little bit about the book. There's the flipping through of the pages that she does very quickly on this. I found so entertaining, first of all. Like 1 minute you're seeing a dog on a skateboard in a thought bubble. The next you're seeing feathers flying everywhere, paint. I can't wait to read this one. While that video was playing, I noticed a couple pages where you see like the dotted lines where I think a frog's hopping, and then there's another one where the kids are crossing the road. And it shows that walking path. Is that also along that same line, something you put in there on purpose? Because I've noticed ever since Gemma was little, when books have that, like those dotted lines, she cannot turn the page until she's traced it with her finger. So is that another like learning method in the book?
Well, that could be, but that's strictly Kayla's idea. That was something she came up with. And then, of course, the illustrator and the designer worked together to figure out how this page is going to go. So, how you put these words on the page.
Oh, and actually, now that I'm getting a more of a look at it too, it can kind of go with what you were saying, like seeing the order the words go, because as their finger will trace, they're going word by word in order. So I find that really interesting. I was wondering if that's kind of like a pre-writing skill or something, maybe, when I saw that.
Oh, yeah, it is. But
yeah,
as I say, that's pretty much Kayla and the designer came up with that part.
That's interesting that it, yeah.
Yeah. And so the designer was the one who suggested the messy.
I love that illustration.
The paint and the chocolate dripping all over everywhere.
That is so great. I can't wait to read this. Did you want to go ahead and jump back and give your brief bio about this one again?
Well, I was visiting a granddaughter who got invited across the street to JD's house for a sleepover. So I said to her, well, what are you going to take? And so she listed off these things. And then I said, and my grandma. So I thought, oh, that's cool. I'm going to take my grandma to a sleepover. So that's where that idea came from. Even though actually JD got sick and we didn't have the sleepover at all, but I just thought it was cute that she wanted to take her grandma to the sleepover.
That's adorable. I had been wondering, all of the chaos that's in there. I love the way it's written. I think is it the back of the book maybe? It just says, what happens when you bring your grandma to a sleepover? A little bit of chaos and a whole lot of fun. I feel like that is just such a great precursor for wanting to read a book. Like that captivates me. I'm like, I've got to see what's happening. So for your research with this book, I was wondering, did you do any of these things? to see how much chaos you can make?
I'm not quite this wild a grandma. But I had a friend who read it to her kids and they just love it too. And she's a grandma who does a lot of things with her kids, but mostly I think at her house, but maybe at their house too. But anyhow, she said, well, we kept reading along and I just thought, well, at the end the grandma they will clean everything up.
Oh no.
Nope.
Hopefully the sleepover is at the parents' house so grandma can just
right. That's what it says. And they go back. The mother says next time the sleepover can be at your house.
Yeah.
They did not clean up the mess.
That's the fun of being a grandma, right? You get to go have
Right.
fun and then say, I love you, bye, and then see you next time.
So I guess you could say I have lots of lessons in lots of my books, but this one, it's, no, we're not teaching the kids anything good.
Sometimes you just got to have fun. That's okay.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That I think that is so sweet that you have that too, because I feel like that's another picture book um, kind of writing section that's not really very full. Like, you know, those books where a grandparent can sit down with their grandkids, specifically reading a grandma, grandchild, book. Um, so I love that you kind of filled that space in the picture book world too, to give them that fun, fun
Well,
reading
I have
experience
a
together.
grandpa one on my list too. So
Yay! I can't wait to keep an eye out for all
grandpa be a little
your
wild too.
yeah, you've got a lot of ideas on your plate all the time, which is so exciting because I just can't wait to watch and see what you'll do next. I love hearing about all of this. Oh my gosh, that's so great. So how much, I know we've kind of talked about the illustrator relationship. These illustrations are so great. So how much did you come in with on this, with your ideas in the text, and the vice versa?
Pretty much on this one, I gave her the story and she went with it. And then the designer made some other suggestions about how to put things together. So
Fantastic. Oh my gosh. I love it. And I love that you have like the most part with learning. I was trying to think of all the things in your books that, were mentioned that we can learn from your books. And I would you just like to list off some of the things that, you know, they're
I
learning
would
without
say,
realizing they're learning because they're having so much fun.
yeah, I would say the David's Pretzels, the main thing is learning a glossary and learning about the dictionary. Just, you can look at different things about animals, facts. Uh, Again, who knew all those fireworks had names, and uh, buck the stereotypes, and a little bit about gravity. So you can find and make a lesson about most anything.
Yeah, this is such a great collection of information and fun, and I just love it so much. And I really appreciate all the time that you put into this interview, that we're splitting up over the course of this month. Is there any last information or anything that you want to share with us about your writing or anything?
Well, no, I think just go out and get some books. I think they're fun. So
I love it, and I agree. And do you want to remind them again? I'll include your links, so they can find your books on the Fox Point Publishing website, and anywhere else they can find you.
well, they actually are on Amazon, and then if anybody saw a book that they really want, they can author.helenholder@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to sell you something. Authors are always glad to sell their books.
Definitely. And oh my gosh, I can't wait to see the reviews of everybody reading and to write up our reviews and to finally dig in and read the words of these books and see the whole story complete, because this has been so exciting. This has been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much. This is going to be such a great feature month. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm so glad to meet Gemma, and I'm glad she's liked what she's heard so far.
She has. She's been very excited. She's been walking around the house going, "We're meeting Helen Holder tomorrow." She was yesterday. So this has been great. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much, Helen, for the work that you put out and all you do, and for hanging in for this million questions that I had.